Hello and welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to each and every one of you who might be joining us live this afternoon or at any time in the future. We are thankful that you've decided to spend some time today in this A Taste of SPI webinar, where we will hear from Amanda Gross in just a little bit about the course that they will be offering at this year's Summer Peacebuilding Institute. So once again, thank you for joining us. This webinar series, which we are playfully calling A Taste of SPI, is intended to be a free series where we can offer you a preview of the Summer Peacebuilding Institute experience. These short and interactive sessions offer a chance to sample our courses, to meet with our instructors, and to engage with the questions and practices and approaches to learning that define SPI and that define this course, Intergenerational Organizing. So whether you're checking out SPI for the first time or a returning participant who is trying to decide which course might be the right one for you this year, we appreciate that you're spending some time and with us today, and we hope that you learned a little bit. So before I welcome Amanda to the stage, I am going to offer a short promo video about the Summer Peacebuilding Institute. This video was recorded from our 2025 Institute last summer and is designed to share a bit of the vibe and the feel of what it is to participate and be in community at the Summer Peacebuilding Institute. This video is about 3.5 minutes, and as soon as we're done, I will join you back here on screen, and we will welcome Amanda and hear a bit more about their course today.
So to me, SPI is a place where people from all around the world can come together who are interested in learning and networking with each other to share stories and skills and to come together and learn about how to build peace in our communities, in ourselves, our families, and in systems of injustice.
It's just powerful. It is really powerful to be in a place where people ultimately share the same goal of a more just and peaceful world. That's a really powerful thing to be a part of.
When you come to FPI, if you're a practitioner, regardless of where you're from and regardless of sort of what your work includes, you feel like you're not alone. Participants will say, this is my place, this is my people, because people understand what I'm talking about. People understand me and I don't have to explain. And so this idea of, we don't share everything, we don't share a language even often, but when we're talking about conflict, we're talking about trying to make change happen in constructive ways and in positive ways.
Why I find SPI valuable is that I get to see multiple perspectives when I come here. I get to see people from other countries that I don't see in my normal life. And I also get to experience the curriculum of very, very different ways of dealing in the world, like the peace building, the conflict analysis, and have conversations that I don't have in my day-to-day life as a faculty member.
There aren't so many places where we get to really connect, reflect, get a little more honest with ourselves, maybe learn more from each other than we can in a typical academic or even a typical public kind of engagement situation.
There's a lot more to SPI than just the courses. First of all, it attracts really fantastic people who are looking to do good in the world and who are looking to build community.
Everybody you meet on the road of EMU, the Eastern Mennonite University, is so friendly. I tell you, this place reminds me of Africa. This place reminds me of my community. Eastern Mennonite University is a place that I have been able to bond with several people.
I experienced a tremendous sense of welcome, not just when I arrived, but throughout my time here. I felt like I was loved before I came here, that the space, that the courses, that the care materials were all prepared for me, for this learning community in a very intentional, loving way.
Don't miss out. You have to come. It is truly a unique place. It is an incubator, it is a networking space, and there's a lot that we learn and grow together here.
All right. Once again, thank you all for joining us today or in the future if you happen to be watching this recording sometime other than now. Without further ado, I am excited to welcome to the stage Amanda Gross. Amanda is going to be offering a course this summer in the first session of SPI, which will run from May 18th to 26th. And Amanda's course is Intergenerational Organizing, Building Networks of Solidarity and Mutual Aid. I can't think of a better year or time to engage in such learning. I'm thankful, Amanda, that you're offering this to the community this summer, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more today. So, yeah, thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And I will hand it over to you, Amanda, and let you share a bit about yourself, a bit about the course, and once we're done today, we'll have some time for question and answer. So for anyone who's with us that has any questions, feel free to share them as we go along or at the end when we'll make some time to answer those questions. All right.
Great. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. My name is Amanda K. Gross. The K stands for Catherine. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And so that was a really beautiful video to watch. I hadn't seen that video before. I'm a graduate, actually, of the Center for Justice and Peacebuilding at Eastern Mennonite University, and happened to be back in Harrisonburg for some life circumstances, and I'm really excited to teach this course. Originally, the invitation was to teach a community organizing course, and when I really thought about it, I realized that intergenerational organizing is so key, both part of what I've been, my work over the past several decades, and also the current work that's happening here locally in the Harrisonburg context. And so one of my hopes for this course is that it will really ground us in the moment and ground us in our local context, and also have important applications for the work of all of the students who come in the various contexts. So I wanted to introduce myself by way of one of the activities that we are going to do together. So the genosociogram, which is a term that I learned from Anselin Schutzenberger, and she's looking at patterns of intergenerational trauma. And so I wanted a way for us to think about our movement lineages and invite them into the space. One of the things that I learned from the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, which has been one of the mentors in my organizing, is that it's really important to know who's in the room, right? It's really important to know who we're organizing with and what the people that stand behind us or whose shoulders we stand on. And so I created this movement genosociogram to share with you all. You can see me, I'm at the top there with the little quilt pattern and the diamond that is trailing off. That's me. And if you look on the left side of our movement's genosociogram, you can see my Anabaptist roots. So I really consider my inspiration and organizing to be deeply grounded in Anabaptism and both the stories that I was raised into as a Swiss German Mennonite child, but also what I have learned more recently as an adult in terms of the Anabaptist movement as a response and a resistant movement in Europe to both state and church power and economic power, and the way that was playing out in harmful ways in Europe at the time. And you can see some of my family lineage here. And then if we move towards the right side, on the right is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthplace. So I was raised in a Swiss German Mennonite household in the center of the city of Atlanta, not far from his birthplace. And I learned to play soccer down the street and learned to swim in his natatorium in the pool right there in that neighborhood. So Dr. King's legacy in the civil rights movement is also one of the movement lineages that I call upon. Specifically in our coursework together, we will be looking at Ella Baker's legacy. So she's in the top right corner, and the ways that she supported SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and young people in organizing as part of that civil rights movement. I also have this house in black and white in the center, which was the one of the houses that Vincent Harding started, and that the Mennonite Central Committee was connected with. And so my parents ended up moving to Atlanta on the tail end of the civil rights movement as part of Mennonite voluntary service. And so a part of my legacy comes from this intentional interracial church congregation. That's my home congregation that I grew up in, and the legacy of folks who showed up in both black and white and folks from all other backgrounds who participated in that congregation and supported the social justice legacies then. And I also have some more recent movement ancestors for me or folks who are still living. I organized as I worked with the American Friends Service Committee, which is a Quaker peace and justice organization, and I'll share a little bit more about that work with Youth Undoing Institutional Racism. But that was work that was in partnership with Yoga Roots on location and Felicia Lane Savage Friedman's work. She's at the bottom in the the star yoga pose. So the organizing work that I was a part of in Pittsburgh for 13 years was grounded in an undoing racism analysis that was brought to me by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, but it was also deeply rooted in the Quaker organization and in this Black-led yoga space, which helped me to really understand in the embodiment of the intergenerational organizing piece. And so much of what we encountered in supporting and organizing alongside of young people were challenges related to challenges that we all face at any age, but specifically developmentally, and how do we support young people in facing really hard things, learning information that maybe they hadn't learned growing up, and are coming to realization about that. And then what is the self and community care that we need to be able to sustain this work? So I'm excited to share about some of those lessons with you all in the course. I'm also going to be inviting in a panel of folks from that time. So we'll be coming together and having some discussion, and you can talk with some of the folks who were youth, are no longer youth at that time, and then also some of the adults that supported that space and that we organized with. So I won't get into all of the movement ancestors that are listed on the genosociogram, but I wanted to offer that as one way of us bringing our movement lineages into the space and introducing myself. So if you are able to type in the chat, I invite you to put, what are those movement lineages that you would name for yourself or claim that have organized you into this room in this moment, or been part of your development and understanding of the world. So we'll take a moment and you can share any social justice movements or individuals, mentors, lineages that you want to name. Yeah, thank you, Corey, for typing that in. And so that's how we are starting our course, right? In terms of thinking about intergenerational organizing, we want to start in really acknowledging those who have come before us and those who are responsible for our being in the space together and being able to have these conversations in this way. So we'll spend some time learning from each other about that and grounding in the space. And then the other part of the course that I wanted to share with you in this moment is about the work that I did with Youth Undoing Institutional Racism, and specifically the way that we used zines as a tool for political education, community building, and intergenerational organizing. So if you don't know, I'll talk a little bit, set up zines for a moment. Zines are like a do-it-yourself magazine, a mini magazine with an agenda, a way to share information, to share learning, And I found it really helpful in learning spaces and classroom and learning communities to track learning, right? So not just to track it for ourselves, but also in a way that is creative, is both words and pictures, and a way to take notes and share what I'm learning and what a class is learning with others. So you're seeing right now this Youth Undoing Institutional Racism zine that a group of young folks ages like 13, 14 to 26 in collaboration with adults made around Pittsburgh's school to prison pipeline. So we spent time, you're looking right now at learning from history and going through what are some of the ways we made this huge timeline and then selected different aspects of history that we thought were really important to include related to the formation of the school to prison pipeline, the way that Black and Brown youth in particular get pushed out of the education system and into the criminal legal system. And then as a group, we dissected Pittsburgh public school policy. So we combed through the student handbook, right, the discipline code of conduct, and looked at all of the different types of infractions and punishments. And the students were able to share their own experiences and also look at like how does the school to prison pipeline play out specifically in their own school context. And then we spent some time getting into alternatives, establishing some community agreements, which is how we want to be with each other and co-create community that is a solutions-based space. And you're also seeing here these really beautiful pieces of work that they did. And then we talked about restorative justice and some of those origins, and also what particularly the students wanted to see. Right, what alternatives exist, and then there was a call to action. So at the end, towards the end of the zine, is this map of knowing your school board representative and a script on a call to action and what you can do. And then the bios of all of the zine contributors are at the end. And there's me. So what I wanted to name for us with the zines and what I am really excited about is it's a way for you to share, like both as we go through the course, we'll look at several different analysis tools, some power mapping, being able to look at our own social justice movement ecosystems within the context of what else is going on, and then reflect on the role of the organizer, the gatekeeping power that an individual has, both within institutions, within community, and other aspects. And then think about some of those tensions, especially when it comes to intergenerational organizing. So one of the things that I found with Youth Undoing Institutional Racism, which was this program that again came out of a Quaker institution, was it felt really siloed at first to have this like youth organizing be separate. And we learned this lesson pretty early on in 2014. It was after Mike Brown's death by police in Ferguson, Missouri. And youth in Pittsburgh were really hungry to have these conversations about race and racism and what the issues that they were encountering with police and in their school systems. And so we had like 70 youth. I remember the first weekend workshop that we did, like we were in a church and I got to know every room of that church really well because we were looking for more and more chairs, and we had teenagers sitting on the floor and on chairs and on the steps. And it was a really incredible, like that's not a bad problem to have in many ways. But one of the things that we realized pretty quickly was that we didn't have the infrastructure to support the numbers of young people and to do that really well within the program that I was working for. And so we turned to the adults who were in the program committee and also the parents and family members and other community members, and realized not only did we need to do this work of building an anti-racist analysis, supporting youth in understanding how race and racism function in their lives, but we also needed to do that work with their communities and with adults and people of all ages, and that really to separate out youth organizing as a separate kind of a silo and a way to think about organizing was a white cultural way of doing it. It was something that was trendy and we could write grants about, but it wasn't really a way that was integrated fully into community. And so, and then on the other kind of age spectrum in of that is the way that, depending on what subculture, what culture you come from, especially in white US-based context, eldership, we don't have a lot of ways to honor elders. And I know there's a lot of cultures that do that really differently. And so we had to unlearn a lot of the ways that we had been taught to think about elders as, not necessarily helpful to our movements, and think about like, how do we integrate those perspectives and that wisdom and those voices as well alongside of the youth. So that work in understanding youth organizing really led me to this place of integrating it and thinking about how do we engage many generations in doing that. And that's wisdom, right? That's how we've existed as humans for a long time. It's something that, especially in a white US context, that has been unlearned and that we need to relearn. So that's one thing that I'll name. And I guess the other thing that I want to mention related to this course, and then I welcome your questions, is thinking about leadership development and how do we, I was taught, again, by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, that a good organizer can lead and the work continues. So how are we developing leadership, developing leaders, and also doing that in a way that folks, when they're stepping into leadership, especially with young folks or people who haven't, maybe showed up in these new ways, or we're asking them to organize in new ways, get the support that they need. So we'll do some work on looking at what are areas where leadership can be developed, what are times and moments when it's helpful to step back. And I had mentioned Ella Baker's work before, but we'll be looking at her role in SNCC specifically, and thinking about the ways that she supported that youth movement as part of the larger civil rights movement to happen. So I think I'll leave it there, and happy to offer some space for some questions. I am an artist. I'm a weaver, hand weaver, and so in addition to the zines, how we are co-creating culture and then a way that pulls folks in with music and movement and sharing culture is also something that I value and I think is really important for a learning space. So I invite your questions, and I'm happy to share anything else specifically about the course.
Thank you, Amanda. I really appreciated learning and hearing from
we had one more image to share with them.
Trying to share it now.
Yeah, we can share that one. So in addition to the zine, you can see actually the zine pages here on the back wall. We had a community share back. So this was part of our really building an intergenerational practice and expanding out from youth organizing and inviting community members to come and share their perspectives and their feedback. So after the young people, several of the folks who you see sitting at the table up front, created these pages, then we had a community share back where we invited family members and other community members and community elders to come and hear from the youth and to ask questions and to share from their lived experiences. And then we also use that as a way of distributing the zines and getting the word out. So I also wanted to share this image because I think it really took the work, the process that was so important, and the learning and the documentation that the zine making you did, over time. Like that was a really incredible way for this group of young people to document their learning, but also then it is this incredible tool and opportunity for sharing learning and starting conversation and doing community building. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, happy to. Amanda, I really appreciate the approach and this intergenerational approach, as what I feel or sense is like a very consistent and long arcing work of organizing, which I might compare to folks in the current US climate who might sense urgency and the need to do some sort of impromptu community organizing where they live. I wonder for you how you experience or respond to folks who feel that urgency and feel that sense of need to respond with, with the necessity to do this in a very communal and collaborative and careful way. What have you witnessed in your work as you engage with folks who have different senses of how to approach organizing and feel different pressures at different times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's some of the paradox that we're in now, but I think that has always existed, that there is an urgency of the moment because people are suffering, and like that needs to end, absolutely. And also it needs to be, our responses need to be grounded and really listening and directed to the folks who are most impacted, because otherwise, we can cause a lot of unintended harm. So yeah, I think there is a lot of tension and paradox there around, like, this is slow work and it is urgent, like it is important and it needs to happen yesterday. And also, to deeply to do the systemic, the work, at least that I'm interested in, that is not a quick fix, right? That's something that is much deeper. It's deeper within ourselves. It's healing justice. A lot of my work is connected to healing justice, and so it is deeply related to healing generational trauma, and those cycles of violence and patterns of harm. And it's also, we do need the energy, right? That's why student movements are so important because we need that energy. We need folks to be like, yeah, now is it. So yeah, all of those perspectives are really important for us to hold and learn how to hold together with attention, to have containers that are strong enough to be able to hold attention.
Yeah. Thank you for responding to that. A question from Mark is, how do seniors participate in the zine activity that you shared with us? It seems perhaps be a medium familiar to young people. Does it also connect with older adults? And I might add, as you're engaging some of the creative approaches to getting people together, how do you cross generational differences and understandings of some of this work?
Yeah, well, I would say that zines have been around a really long time. Miriam Kaba's work looks at like the pamphlets coming out of the abolitionist movement in the early 1800s as some of our first zines. So even though it is like, maybe we associate zines with younger folks, that it has like its own long lineage. And yeah, I do think I'm seeing the comment, and I do think like scrapbooking is something that might resonate. But in our process of the community share back and some of the other zine projects I've been a part of, interviewing, having youth or anyone really of any age interview seniors, and then having like quotes or stories that seniors share can be something that really are profound ways of communicating stories and wisdom and passing that information down. So that's one of the ways that we've worked with that before, is to do like a listening project where youth pair up with seniors. We did that in a neighborhood that I was living in Pittsburgh, and then have some of those stories and that information get integrated into the zine. So that's another way along with, you know, you make a product and then you have this great zine that you can go and you can share with an elder and get their perspective on it and see what you might edit or change based on what you hear. Mhm.
Yeah. What are some of the like the responses that you've seen to engaging more creative and artistic approaches and bringing people together or helping people think for themselves or think and brainstorm together? What have you seen emerge from weaving in, yeah, some creative approaches rather than just trying to facilitate conversation or just staying in how we analyze and stay in our heads as we're trying to be in community together?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, so much of our wisdom is embodied, and when we're just up here, we don't access it. And it's also a lot, I think, being in the head analysis space or maybe a defensive posture, like trying to convince somebody of something. It's really hard to listen. It's really hard. Art is a place, I'll just say art is a place where I have found a lot to be a lot more expansive than binaries, right? So um, the color palette is like almost infinite, right? There's so many different colors.
Mm,
There's so many different ways of moving and being in the world and expressing yourself and sounds. There's all these different ways that we can share and express and communicate. And I think those modalities help us to access places that aren't just in our head where we're trying to think to either fix a problem or solve an answer or does someone agree or disagree.
yeah.
And so for me, the arts, especially ones that are collectively, you know, co-created,
Mm,
is a space for us to try on and to practice other ways of being with each other, and then that can unlock a lot more options. Um, yeah, it's a place of emergence and expansion.
mm,
Um, yeah, to speak really generally, and then also I think, you know, the engaging with the sensory is like deeply ingrained as part of our human experience and biology,
yeah.
and can be like so soothing to our nervous systems. And
Mm,
I'm a slow art person. I'm like a fiber, you know, a lot of my work is fiber art, and that is really about being in the process and doing the thing over and over and over again. And
yeah.
that for me is also, it's very soothing. And it helps me release the things that I might be trying to think about and then have, you know, other ideas and thoughts come, possibilities come.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Mm.
So if there are any other questions coming today, you're welcome to drop them in the chat. We'll take 1 or 2 more minutes in case anything is bubbling up. If questions arise later on and anyone present now or watching in the future would be interested in reaching out, you are welcome to either scan the QR code that's on the top of your screen or to visit us at emu.edu/SPI. You can also reach out and email us at spi@emu.edu. You can see the website coming across the bottom of the screen now. And we're happy to answer any questions about Amanda's course, about SPI in general. Amanda, I have one last question for you, and I'll give you a second to think
Mhm.
on it. But do you have a unique memory from SPI and your experiences in the past, either as a student or community participant, that is really fond or that has sat with you?
Mm.
As I give you a second to think, I'll share that SPI itself is a really beautiful community where we have a mix of practitioners and students wrestling with some of this content together in a way that this course isn't going to feel super academic, and yet we will have some academic folks and theory present to help stimulate how we're thinking about this content. And we welcome folks from around the world. So there are people who are going to have different languages, different cultures, different ways of knowing and being in the world that will help create a really stimulating conversation, no matter what the topic is, and no matter whether it's in class or over a coffee break at some point. So those are some of the beautiful qualities I know everyone will be able to see. And yeah, Amanda, do you have any any particular memories that are bubbling up as you think about what's it like to be at SPI?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a specific memory, but I have like several that have the same feeling,
Mm,
which is just that of play and like it being a space where um, like so many heavy things could be named. And also there was just like so much space for joy and play together. And like um, that balance just felt very, very energizing. So I have like several snapshots of like play happening with this, group of adults in the summer. It's like summer camp for peace builders.
yeah, it definitely is. It's a space where I think our souls can be nourished and can play with one another.
Mhm.
It's a refilling time for us
Mhm.
to refill our cups, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for offering us your energy today and insight on this course, Intergenerational Organizing. I'm looking forward to this summer when we can all be together and go deeper into the learning. And for those of you who are here with us, thank you again for spending this time together. We deeply appreciate it. We would love to hear from you in the future or see you in person this summer at SPI.
Mhm.
So,
Awesome. Thank you all.
all right. Thank you all. See you again.